Carl and Lou here from Brrraaains A Head-Banging Life, gbhblofficial for short. And it's here. You've seen the title, you know what nasty this is. Mm-hmm. This is the most infamous, famous, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. It is Cannibal Holocaust. It's one I kind of was putting off because it seemed like it was an easy one to do. Because it's one of the nasties, we're always going to get around to it. Yeah. What I quite enjoyed about doing this is you had never seen it.
No, never.
And I think this movie's brilliant.
Yeah.
I am one of the fans of it. I can get past the issues it has because I understand a lot of why and the wrongs and all that kind of thing, and I can enjoy this as just an incredibly forward-thinking, ahead of its time, cleverly fucking told film that at times is downright brilliant. Downright brilliant. And rewatching it for me, I was like, I can't help it. I think this movie is easily one of the best of the nasty runs. One of the best cannibal horror films you'll ever see.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just really inventive. I say I was put off because not put off, but like the whole, I knew there's quite a lot of animal cruelty.
Yeah.
And it always makes me go, it makes me sigh because you could just get rubber. I've always said that for every film I've watched. You could get rubber and just cover it in fake blood, and that was it.
We will. When we get to those scenes,
we'll
try.
It's obviously a main part of why it got.
100%. Again, this is one easy to watch and go, this is why. In fact, watching a completely uncut version of this movie is really, really hard. We still did not watch the full uncut. We were missing, I think, about 14 seconds. Yeah. But that is quite uncut. And they probably could, if they'd cut the other cuts, the longer ones, I don't think it matters. No. I think what they cut is perfectly fine. Yeah. Because it's all animal stuff. Yeah. It's all animal stuff. Doesn't add anything to the overall movie quality. So it is the 1980 Italian cannibal film directed by Ruggero Dediotto. Can't say his last name properly. And written by Gianfranco Clarecchi. It stars Robert Kerman as Harold Monroe, an anthropologist from New York University who leads a rescue team into the Amazon rainforest to locate a crew of filmmakers, who are played by Carl Gabriel York, Francesca Chiardi, Perry Perkinen, and Luca Barbareschi. That's the original lot. So produced, obviously, as part of the contemporary cannibal trend of the Italian exploitation cinema that was happening then, inspired by Italian media coverage of the Red Brigade's terrorism. Coverage that actually exists in this movie. The coverage includes news reports that Dedotto believed to be staged, an idea which became an integral part of the film's actual story. Additional story elements were influenced by the documentaries of Mondo director Gilatio Jacopetti, including the presentation of the documentary crew's lost footage, which constitutes approximately half of this film. I should tell you then now at this point, Blair Witch popularised it. Here's a movie that, while not the first, was one of the earliest examples of found footage horror.
Yeah, that's clever.
Which is stunning. Yeah. Which is why I said forward thinking. Because this is 1980. Now, there is a movie famously, I can't remember the title, that came out before this that is considered to be the first found footage horror movie. But this is often cited to a lot of people who don't know of that movie. And I can't remember the title as the first. But it's certainly one of the more groundbreaking ones. Obviously, come 1999, Blair Witch Project would put that into contemporary mainstream cinema. The treatment of this footage, which is noted for its visual realism, innovated the found footage style that I just talked about. Cannibal Holocaust was filmed primarily on location in the Amazon rainforest of Colombia, with a cast of indigenous tribes interacting with mostly inexperienced American and Italian actors recruited in New York City. So I think that's incredible. Yeah, I think that's incredible that the inexperience of these actors and integrating and working with these indigenous tribes worked so fucking well in the end. Yeah. Really did. Cannibal Holocaust achieved notoriety as its graphic violence aroused a great deal of controversy. After its premiere in Italy, it was ordered to be seized by a local magistrate, and the director was arrested on obscenity charges. Yes, this film got some serious trouble. Yeah. He was charged with multiple counts of murder due to rumours that had circulated claiming that several actors were killed on camera. He was cleared of these charges. The film was banned in Italy, Australia, and several other countries due to its graphic content, including sexual assault and genuine violence towards animals. Although some nations have since revoked the ban, it is still upheld in several countries. Should be noted that part of the agreement the director had with his cast to add the realism to the movie was to basically disappear for a year. Yeah. Contracted. He had to break those contracts to get out of being fucking murder charges in court. Incredible. Incredible. Story. Unsurprisingly, This movie was prosecuted in the UK and banned. It was banned in Australia, Norway, Finland, New Zealand, and several other countries in 1984. 2005, the Office of Film and Literature Classification in Australia, because I always like to bring Australia into this, because Australia are hardcore
They are pretty
when it comes to
weird.
banning stuff.
They seem quite laid back. I'm surprised.
But they revoked the ban in 2005, passing Cannibal Holocaust with an R18 plus rating with a consumer advice, high-level sexual violence, high-level violence, animal cruelty for completely uncut print. In 2006, the film was banned in its entirety by the OFLC in New Zealand. Cuts to retain an R18 classification was offered by the office, but they were refused.
Okay.
That's childish. If cuts are offered, don't refuse it. Let's see if we can work on this. Do you know what I mean? Come on.
Compromise.
In 2011, after numerous versions with extensive mandated cuts had been released in years prior, the BBFC waived all but one of their previous edits, passing Cannibal Holocaust with 15 seconds of cuts. That is one likely you'll have seen. It's the one we watched. It was determined that the only sin that breached the BBFC's guidelines at this time was the killing of Akota Mundai. And the BBFC acknowledged that previous cuts were reactionary to the film's reputation. That's fascinating. However, to date, the film is still banned in other countries. So, it's so notorious.
Yeah.
It's so notorious. But we're going to get into why it's good, and we'll touch upon some of these scenes as we come to him. So an American film crew disappear in the Amazon rainforest while filming a documentary about indigenous cannibal tribes. The team consists of Alan Yates, the director, Faye Daniels, his girlfriend and script girl, and two cameramen, Jack Anders and Mark Tommaso. That is our found footage crew, so to speak.
Yeah.
Harold Monroe, an anthropologist at New York University, agrees to lead a rescue mission in hopes of basically finding them because they've just disappeared. In anticipation of his arrival, military personnel stationed in the rainforest conduct a raid on the local Yakimo tribe and take a young male hostage in order to kind of negotiate with the natives. It's that aspect of things. Monroe ends up flying in via float plane. He's introduced to his guides, Chaco, and his assistant, Miguel. So we're immediately kind of dropped into they're already missing.
Yeah.
The idea is, already missing, we're sending this guy out and stuff like that. This is why this movie can be it's basically two halves. Yeah. This part and then what we will eventually see when the footage is found.
Yeah.
After several days of trekking through the jungle, the rescue team encounters the Yakumo. They come across a body in the grass, which is one of the crew's guides, who appears to have died. They arrange the release of their hostage in exchange for being taken to the Yakumo village, and once there, the group is initially greeted with hostility and learns that basically the filmmakers who had come there before them had caused some sort of trouble, some sort of issue.
Which is weird because you think it'd be the other way around, of like they were scared of them, but it's like they seem like they would cause some sort of ruckus.
Yeah, you get the impression they're not happy to see basically the white man.
Yeah.
The next day, Monroe and his guides head deep into the rainforest to locate two warring cannibal tribes. We have the Yanamo and the I can't do this. The Yanomamo and the
Yanomamo
and Shamatari. All right, Shamatari.
Yeah.
The next day, Monroe and his guides head deep into the rainforest to locate two warring cannibal tribes, the Yanomamo and the Shamatari. And they encounter a group of Shamatari warriors and follow them to a river bank where Monroe's team ends up saving a smaller group of the Yanomamo from death. So it's kind of like you've done us a favour kind of aspect. They're invited back to their village in gratitude while still being kind of kept at a distance because they're suspicious and stuff like that. Completely understandable. Thinking he's got to gain their trust because a lot of it he talks to recordings Monroe and stuff like that, who I must say comes across incredibly likeable in this film.
Yeah.
The actor does wonderfully.
He does.
It's fascinating backstory as to what his kind of roles were before and after this as well. Porn actor, wasn't he?
Oh yes, yeah. It's weird because you don't obviously see him indulging in anything like that.
No.
So, but other people do. So you would have thought they would have been the ones not as up for it as he would be. But anyway.
Yeah. To gain their trust, he ends up deciding to bathe naked in the river, friggin' if he can show them, look, I'm like you, I'm nothing different. he'll kind of gain a trust, and it kind of works because he's joined by a lot of young women as well. So you get like nudity here and all that, but it's not sexualized nudity.
No, it's just having a bit of fun.
Yeah,
really.
it's that kind of thing. And the woman ended up leading him a row from the river to a shrine, and that shrine is where he discovers the skeletal remains of the filmmakers. So they're all dead, and their film reels are nearby. Obviously, he's quite shocked by her. He confronts the Yanomamo in the village, and to kind of get their attention, and incredible sort of hut building kind of thing, the aspects, some great visuals in this movie. He plays the music from a tape recorder, which fascinates them. The intrigued natives agree then basically for a trade, because they're not willing to give up the tapes. They kind of see them as, I think it's sort of suggested that they think it contains evil spirits.
Yeah. Keeps them all contained.
Yeah, so they don't want to give them over in that aspect, but he trades the tape recorder for those reels. We then go back to New York, where executives of the Pan American Broadcasting System, they want Monroe to host a broadcast of the documentary to be made from the recovered film. But Monroe's kind of like, no, we should check out the footage before just putting that out there. We should. Part of this is because the filmmakers in question were kind of famous, had made a previous documentary, which the executives show us and Monroe as well, where an excerpt from his previous documentary was called The Last Road to Hell.
Yeah.
And that's some of the real footage we see that inspired the director because he thought parts of it were staged. Which is also part of the plot here, as the executives tell Monroe that actually Alan staged dramatic scenes to get more exciting footage.
Which we heard of that before, haven't we, in other films and other in real life.
Yeah, so you are kind of like, oh, well, that's very dodgy. It's unethical as fuck, obviously. So that kind of makes you start to question, some of the early elements. Monroe then starts to view the recovered footage, which follows the group's trek through the rainforest. We get some early stuff where they're kind of setting up. He kind of shows how natural they are around each other as a group, like she's fully naked around them all, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we're one of them or something. She's with one of them. Which one of them?
Alan's the boyfriend, that kind of thing. But they're constantly filming everything. There's a lot of banter, playfulness. They come across just like normal people, basically. After walking for days, though, their guide Felipe, which is the body that was found by Monroe and his group, is bitten by a venomous snake. The group ends up amputating Felipe's leg with a machete to save his life, but he dies, and obviously they leave him behind. That's the body that's found. Upon locating the Yakomo in a clearing, Jack shoots one in the leg so they can easily follow him to the village. And you're like,
here we go.
What?
Yeah, why would you do that?
What? That's not great. Once they arrive, the crew proceeds to then intimidate the tribe while filming it all and stuff like that, before herding the natives into a hut, which they burn down in order to stage a massacre for their film. Going to make it look like the fire and burning was from a warring tribe. And you are like,
well, there we go. We know now. We know these people are absolutely, they're scumbags.
Yeah.
Trying to make a buck.
Yeah, it's shocking, but I just want to praise the absolute way it's done. The music, this music film has incredible music, which is incredibly peaceful and light and almost that. And it's utilised across a scene like this, and it enhances the horror.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible. It's really wow. It's such a wow moment. Monroe, obviously, at this point is like, what the fuck? He expresses apprehension about the stage footage and the treatment of the natives, but the executives just don't care.
No.
They just do not care.
No.
They can see they can make a buck out of this. But he ends up finishing the remaining footage without us. Yeah. That's quite an interesting aspect. He finishes it, we don't see it yet.
Yeah.
And he expresses his disgust towards the station's decision to continue to air the documentary. They're insisting they're going to air it. He's saying, don't do it.
Yeah.
To convince them otherwise, he then says, right, let's watch the rest of the footage. I'm going to show it to you, the unedited footage. And that's what we're about to now see.
Yeah, which is good. It's a nice way of going, oh, God, what we're going to see.
Yeah, because you're like, oh, God, yeah, what worse are we going to see than what we've seen already? The final two reels begin with the filmmakers locating a Yanomamo girl, who the men then take turns raping. Now, Faye protests a lot of this. And this is it's a very raw scene, muddy, rolling around. It's just not nice. Yeah. It's just not nice. But they would later then find that same girl impaled on a wooden pole by a riverbank. And they claimed for the footage that the other natives killed her because of her loss of virginity. Yeah. Obviously, this scene is famous. It's often used in a lot of the stills and imagery and so on like that. It's an incredible image. Yeah. It really is.
It looks amazing.
Yeah, explain how it's done. You read how it's done.
Yeah, so what they did was they had a large... So I think she was suspended on a pole from the back part.
a bicycle seat she's sitting on.
Yeah, so she's sitting on a bicycle seat, and then for the actual bit of wood, she's got a bit of wood balancing it in her mouth. So that's how they did that. So obviously, like, to keep her mouth steady for that and to make it look real. Yeah, fair play how they did that though. It's good. That's CGI.
Yeah, absolutely. It does. It's iconic. But this obviously has got the ire of the Yanomamo tribe, who basically attack them and start hunting them through it. Jack is hit by a spear, and Alan ends up shooting him to prevent his escape. So, good friend there.
Yeah, these guys.
Their obsession with filming it, they film the natives mutilating his corpse and eating and stuff like that. And the group is then cornered, and then we get Faye is captured by the Yanomamo. Alan insists that they attempt their rescue, but Mark continues to film as she's stripped naked, gang raped, beaten, and then beheaded. Obviously, the fact that they stuck around means they get located by the tribe and they're killed. The last two members are killed as the camera drops to the ground. We've kind of flown through these sort of set of sequences because the last part of this movie is very frantic. There's no drawn out thing like this. They're attacked, and in the space of a couple of minutes, they're wiped out. There is some certain level of brutality. You know, in regards to what we've seen, we do see penis cut off. Yeah. That's cut off. Faye is obviously raped as well. You know, we don't. It's visceral, but not real visceral. Yeah. Like you can, you kind of get it. But the terror of the situation is very hard to watch. Yeah. I think that's what makes it particularly difficult, more than anything else. The movie ends because the executives see it disturbed, order the footage to be destroyed as Monroe leaves the building. That is the end of the movie. There is a thing at the end where you say, because your idea is, well, how did the footage get out to us to see it? Yeah. And it turns out it was stolen, like some guy got in trouble or like prison sentence because he stole it and put it out there. Yeah. So the plan didn't work, it got out there anyway. It's
like a real twist as well, because I didn't think about it until a couple of times. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, it was
destroyed. How would you get it?
Yeah, it was almost unnecessary because you could be like, well, it's a film. But you're like, oh, you still put that little wrinkle in there.
Extra.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's go back a bit because we didn't put it as part of the plot talk through, but basically a lot of the trekking involves them running into certain animals and doing certain aspects and things. We're going to touch upon some of the more controversial scenes. Let's first talk about probably the turtle, basically. This is dragging a live turtle from the riverbank and cutting it up, taking out its shell, killing them. It's a real turtle. It's a horrible scene. It is. It's simple as that. There were obviously other animals that are killed. A snake is obviously chopped in half and things. These are all real animals. We're not going to... What can we possibly say about whether or not it's acceptable or not? It's not. Yeah. It's simply not. The director has expressed his own regrets of doing this. It doesn't change the fact it was done. Yeah. And he's not alone. He's not the only one that did this. But you do wonder why. Yeah. Why?
Like, it kind of... And it's clearly not even like... If you'd have filmed a tribe beforehand and cut like stock footage of them doing like rituals with these animals, that's part of their culture. Yep. If I hadn't seen that film, that would have gone on without me seeing it. But you did that for a film. Like, you've got a props department. You could have made foam ones. You could have had. You might have been corpses of one you could have found.
Yeah.
And used.
Or just not have it.
Yeah.
You just do not have it. I get the whole survivability thing, but like you can read lots of behind the scenes of this, and like I can't remember which actor it was, but one of the men actors cried having to do this scene. That's not right. No. This isn't right. No. Away from the animal stuff, we didn't touch upon it during the plot thing, but you know the physical violent rape of a native on another woman. So basically, they witness and watch a native arrive on a riverbank with his partner, basically, and it's something where they think suggests infidelity. Yeah. So basically, he abuses her sexually with a stone dildo. Yeah. And it's pretty violent. It's in the mud. It's nasty. And then he crushes her head with it afterwards. That's another one where you're like, probably didn't need it. No. Like, did it add or take anything away? I get you want to kind of sort of sow some more of these sort of I guess the idea of like, well, look, you know, there are rituals and beliefs that really don't marry up with Western civilization. No. And stuff like that, you know? But that's always one that kind of stuck with me. It's really kind of harsh. There's a very violent sex scene between Faye and her boyfriend later on. In that it's consensual, but the way they behave, and the fact they do it publicly in front of all the tribe members, but the way they behave with each other is, again, got this really nasty feel to it. Yeah. You know? This film has everything wrong that's troublesome. It's got violence, it's got hefty gore, it's got sexualized violence, it's got a lot of sex and nudity, it's got animal cruelty. It ticks almost every single box for trouble.
Ban.
But it is incredible.
It really is. I appreciate the fact that they had a woman that had kind of questionable morals as well.
That's a really interesting one.
Yeah, so it wasn't just the fact that it was like all these free men going over there taking advantage of all the women. It was like a woman getting involved. Like, so she's obviously been swayed. So she's got this boyfriend that's obviously been, you know, they've kind of gone through this together. But yeah, the fact they had a woman there as well.
I thought it was fascinating to do this whole idea of actually like the subterfuge of having these people aren't nice and they brought this on themselves.
Yeah.
And that while the mutilation and abuse they receive at the end isn't necessarily fair, it's eye for an eye. They did exactly the same to these poor people who and the wider issue as well is what you've also done is you've created this distrust and this damage, this potential long-term relationship. We see that when Monroe and his group are there. While they don't kill them when they attack, they had every right to. So they are wary and they're mistrustful and stuff like that. That's what they've created. They've crafted this issue where you're potentially guaranteeing that anyone else wouldn't be welcome because of what you did. And I think that's incredible. The story told is really, really cleverly done from just the whole, they're missing, here's Monroe, and we follow him along as he narrates a lot of it for his recorder. And you start to get these suspicions, as he does, as he starts to wonder about aspects.
What these kind of people like. And I do like the fact that the executives don't get their documentary they're so like desperate to get.
Yeah.
Like the whole look at these kind of tribes, these uncivilized tribes. This is what they do. And like they don't get another kind of tick box exercise.
We even said at the end, we were almost like, it's not fair that footage doesn't get out because they don't deserve to be martyrs. They don't deserve to be like, oh, poor them. They went out there and got killed by a bad tribe. No. They deserve. They basically murderers, and they were murderers.
They're trespassing. That land is theirs.
Yeah, they were murderers. They were faking documentary stuff and stuff like that. All of it was fucking terrible. People deserve to know that. Not looking at them going poor them. So in the end, the fact that the footage got out means it would work that way exactly. But obviously the found footage aspect as well. I must pray. I think it's filmed really nicely. That it's not that horrible kind of, because a lot of the time the cameraman is like lot of sneaky camera shots and stuff like that, but other times it's used really smartly, like near the end when like Faye's being stripped and murdered, you get a lot of leaves covering it, so you kind of see like in between the leaves and things like this, used to create a level of modesty as well to a degree. From the music to the acting, I mean the music I think is fantastic, the location is wonderful. I think the indigenous tribes did wonderfully well with them. There was nothing they were asked to do that seemed particularly stupid. Like, you know, when we've seen previous cannibal tribes, it's like, oh, they're eating stuff, and it's like, well, we're going to film you up closer, here's some sausage meat and stuff like that. That sort of level of stupidity. Yeah. There was no better cannibal movie out there than this. Definitely. There is none. And in the nasty list of what we've done, well, we have enjoyed others.
This is definitely like top.
And what we've got still to come in the nasties, I already know, the likes of Cannibal Apocalypse, this is the highest point we're going to get. Yeah. Probably the highest point we might get. This is up there alongside the likes of Zombie Flesh Eaters. Are we just like, damn, that's a good movie? And I wish it could be seen as such genuinely. But because of obviously so many issues surrounding it, it's got the notoriety instead of the whole, no, this is a really, really good and well-told movie.
I do think it's funny, though, that a lot of the stuff that happened in real life for these guys is what people try to recreate with the benefits of the internet, and obviously it worked harder on. So, you know, like when... Like the whole Blair Witch, like it was real. Yep. These people have gone missing, but obviously with the internet and stuff, you can start
impossible.
Kind of like these campaigns, like the online trader campaigns. Obviously less so now because obviously everyone's got it on their phones. Yeah. But early days of the internet, it's probably easy to kind of create that mystery.
Of course, yeah, that's something that's really that's really cool.
But then this guy nearly going to prison for killing people because it was obviously easy to kind of go missing back then.
You weren't exactly famous. No one was looking for you.
You weren't posting daily on your blog or your like Instagram page. Yeah. You were just like an actor and you might be in the papers, but. Yeah,
it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's a really cool story.
There are more stories. There are documentaries about the making of this movie and things behind it that you can see to really get more detail if you want. If you've never seen it and you've always come and put off by the animal thing, maybe maybe look for a more heavily cut version because that will remove a lot of that aspect for you, so you can enjoy it. I say enjoy it, you know, without necessarily the animal cruelty. There are many different variations out there. If you want to try and avoid that aspect more than anything else. Also, a lot of it is preempted. You kind of know it's coming. The initial it doesn't become an instant thing. You kind of, okay, something bad about it happens. So you could kind of just walk away for a couple of minutes, that kind of thing. You know, if that's that. I do urge you to check it out because it is such a good movie.
Definitely.
If you've got other thoughts, let us know in the comments. Thank you very much for watching. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and Tumblr. Go to Patreon and help us out over there. That's patreon.com/gbhbl, as well as Big Cartel, where you can find some of our merchandise. We have a podcast running on SoundCloud and Apple Podcasts. And of course, if you like this video, do us a favour, hit the subscribe button and help the channel grow. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?